He wants me to make other girls, children, do what he made me do. I said no. I said no. Because ever since I was a child, it's literally all I wanted to do was catch my father's eye.
We had an arrangement.
Not with you. I don't trust you. I don't trust your boss, and I certainly don't trust the agency. No offense.
Okay, look, I know you have problems, but bringing Carpenter here is like throwing gas on a fire.
Cute, real cute. So what do you think Max will say when I tell him that you're working his intelligence to use the Necronomicon, not to destroy it?
Man, I give few fucks about what Max has to say.
Did you forget about who you're dealing with?
Okay, do you not know what his little circle jerk will do when they find out? They're gonna put a bullet in you, David.
Of course they can. Now, I want you to come to your senses and fill out the candidacy again by the end of the working.
I don't want to be mayor. I'm happy right here as executive assistant.
Let's keep this a fair fight.
That's on your ass.
Thank you for joining us on the Downing Cut. Thanks for subscribing. Leave a comment. Give us a like. Guest today is Jasmine Wright, a dance artist, actor, mom, yoga teacher, a former police officer from the Tacoma, Washington. She has performed for Walt Disney World and Disney Live Touring. She studied dance and music at the University of Washington and trained with Mark Morris Dance Group. She has appeared in theatrical plays and television shows on TNT, Amazon Prime, PureFlix, and Sci-Fi, while teaching dance, yoga, and fitness in the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to the Downing Cut, Jasmine. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. I have a 3-year-old, so I was just in mom mode all the way up until this podcast. So it's kind of weird to actually sit down now.
I know the feeling. I have a 4-year-old.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Well,
So you understand.
So I just want to dive into something that I know. Tell me, how did you become a police officer? How did that path go down?
Yeah. It's funny. That's more toward the end of my sort of acting story. But I started in the arts. I've always been an arts nerd, grew up as a dancer and got into acting like in, I think, 2014, 15. Found a big passion there and was really gung-ho about it. Like I was studying dance in college. I had already performed with Disney on like an internship basis. So I had the performing bug. So I was determined to pursue that, and I did. I did some stuff up here in Seattle. I tried my bit down in LA for about 2 years. Came back up here in 2018 because I had family up here, had commitments. I had a fiance up here. And when I came back, it was kind of a culture shock because I felt like I was just starting to create steam down in LA. And so to come back here where, yes, I had an agent and people knew me, but I'd kind of been gone for a while. And, I felt like I lost steam when I got back up here. And that was kind of it's kind of depressing. But I kept at it. I started auditioning for professional theaters because I really found a passion for theater when I was in LA. And kind of got a glimpse of that, got some callbacks, but then didn't quite make the cut. And I think just all of that combined with feeling like I had given up on LA, I felt like, gosh, I'm just hitting a wall here. And I felt like I was wasting other talents that I had. I've always been really good at talking with people, creating relationships, which is really all that police work is for the most part, is talking to people and, gaining people's trust, solving problems, trying to connect the dots, de-escalate. So my husband had always been interested in being a police officer, but he ended up making rounds in the corporate world. So he got a very good job there and didn't want to give that up because it paid really well and didn't put his life in danger. So him and I, our hobby was always like going shooting together. And when I came back here and wasn't really feeling satisfied, I was like, I'm gonna try my hand at the police academy. I'm just gonna take the test. I'm just gonna take the test and see, And I trained a little bit for it. The physical test wasn't too bad. It's actually the written test that was the hardest. But I passed the test, and it was a very long hiring process. They do like a psych exam, they do a polygraph. I took several polygraphs. And I finally made it in, and I got hired by Washington, Police Department. And I did really well in the academy, but once I got out on the road for kind of my on-the-job training, it was a whole different beast. And I don't have a lot of fear. Like I was, I loved talking to people. I loved calming people down because I was good at that. What got me from the job was there was so much multitasking. And I mean, like, trying to drive, listen to the radio, look at your computer, be aware of your, situational awareness, not accidentally drive past the address you're trying to find because that's a safety issue. All these things. It's so much. And I think people don't realize that. I definitely didn't realize that. And it just got the best of me. I was like so stressed. And I realized that the whole time I was training to be an officer, I found myself really missing the arts and feeling like I had made a mistake. And so after a while of being out there on the road, realizing I could die today and this is not even what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
I decided like that it wasn't for me. And that was hard because I did put a lot of work into it. But yeah, I think just having an achy heart from not making it, in my chosen field as an actor or a dancer, whatever making it means, I think that's what led me to pursue something else. I think it was like another thrilling career for me. But quickly realized that it's like, okay, I'm going to go back and try again at what I had been doing for years, like what my roots are in. So now I'm here.
Well, I think that's great though that you had that awareness and you had the ability to kind of go, this isn't for me. I'm going to go back to what I love. I think there's some of us, like myself, who have no choice. We have to work in order to live and provide for the family.
Exactly.
But yet at the same time, we're still trying to juggle and trying to, have one foot in the creative domain and all that. So kudos.
That's where I was really lucky, was that because my husband had such a good job, it wasn't imperative that I work a big salary job as well. I think I did it more for me than anything. But yeah, thinking about other people where that's their livelihood, like they don't have a choice, like that's hard. That's rough. So
I'm envious. No. But let's dive in. I'm glad that you gave me some of the background from your acting and what sparked the drive, because that was my actually first question. But I just wanted to, so just some insight for you, the audience. When in my 20s, I wanted to become a cop, but I think it was because of my peers, and I had applied for Washington State Patrol and went through that program. I didn't make it, but I went through the same thing: polygraph, the test, the physical, and all that stuff.
It's a lot.
And But when I look back, the same type of situation, I look back and I'm going, thank God I didn't get in,
Mm-hmm.
because it's dangerous.
It is.
I may not have been here. And
What year was
so,
that? What year was that that you were trying to get
oh
in?
my gosh, I have no idea. I think I was in my early 20s, I think
Okay.
late teens. So
So
long
back,
time ago.
yeah, back,
Long time ago.
back in my day. Yeah. So probably back when a time when police officers were more respected versus the
hmm
climate now is completely changed.
Oh, right. The whole climate has changed now.
Yeah.
So, Jasmine, let's dive down to your acting and the depth and go into this domain. You've had a lot of experience. Looking at your IMDb here, a lot of experience. And what I want to ask you, though, is from your perspective, looking at yourself and then looking at your fellow actors, what makes a good actor?
Mm. I think you really need to be a good listener to be a good actor. And I think I've realized that early on doing like low budget stuff, like student films and, the stuff that you do when you first start out. It's not always great stuff. But you got to start somewhere. But yeah, I've had a couple actors in scenes with me who, you know, they step on your line, which I've stepped on people's lines before. Like it is totally like it's a mistake that we all make. But when someone consistently steps on your line, that's when you know, oh, they're not listening. They're just waiting for me to say my stuff and then they're chiming in with their lines. And you can really tell, like, it makes a big difference when you take the time to truly listen. And I learned that after, taking classes and, learning how to be in the scene and not just be waiting to hear myself talk.
I've seen that. I'm probably one of those in the beginning where I was the type of person who was like, "Oh, I just got to get my line out. Just got to get my line out."
Because you're so
And then
worried
you
that you
learn,
mess it up.
yeah, you learn to just kind of calm down, be in the moment, listen, and then respond. So,
Yeah.
how has your now? I know you're a dancer. How has your background in dance shaped your approach to acting?
I think having an awareness of your body on camera, um, people always have told me, they used to always tell me, like when I would go into audition for something, or if I'd be on set filming something, they'd be like, "Are you a dancer?" And I always wondered, like, how they knew that. And they said it was like the
Yeah.
way that I carried myself. I guess there's like I guess just an awareness that there are eyes on you. So I guess that could be chalked up to stage presence. But I think it's helped me to, yeah, just be aware of my posture, be aware of where the audience is or where the camera is in film cases. Um, and also being able to learn lines quickly. I think when I first started dancing, I struggled with remembering large bits of choreography. And I didn't get to exercise that muscle until I got to college when the dance work started to be more lengthy. Like we would do 20, 25-minute long dance works, and they would teach the material very quickly. And it was kind of trial by fire for me. But eventually, the more you practice forcing yourself to just hurry up and pick it up, the better you get at it. And I've seen that improve drastically over the years with what I can pick up as far as movement and choreography, and also what I can take off of the page and get in my mind quicker, which is really helpful for auditions, because most of the times for auditions we don't get a ton of time. Up here in the
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest, it's not too bad, but like some of the stuff I got down in LA, you just had zero time, and it's a lot of lines sometimes to memorize. So
Wow.
I'm grateful that dance has exercised my memory really well, because I use that to my advantage.
I guess it is the same muscle as memory, but you're physically moving versus
Mhm.
verbally talking.
I think
Has that been
because
a challenge?
No, I think because I think I have like a photographic memory. So
Oh. Lucky you.
I know. I don't know. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it till was on set with other actors who were like just struggling, and I felt so bad. Like I wanted to help them, but for some reason, it's always just come pretty easy to me. So that's never been the thing that I've worried about on set. I probably worry more about how my hair looks than memorizing the lines. But yeah, I
You
think
know,
being a visual learner.
it's funny. I can relate. I've actually taken dance classes when I was younger, and you know, just like weekend stuff, nothing, not long term, because, and they would teach you, you know, a few steps, and then you're like, okay, I think I got this, and the next thing you know, they're teaching you the next 3 steps, and I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
slow down, I'm not there yet, So that's amazing. What you just said, the 20-minute segment of different moves that you're just
Yeah.
learning to flow through.
Yeah.
Um, so having worked in several media networks, how does the dynamic change between performing in film versus TV versus stage?
Hmm. I think for stage work, I did things a little backwards. Usually people start in theater and then they find film. I started with film television acting and then stumbled upon theater like a couple years later when I was in LA. I'm trying to remember back to my first theater experience. I definitely made my initial mistake was auditioning for theater or doing plays, forgetting that the audience was far away versus a camera that's right up in your face. Because I had gotten so good at like those subtle emotions and all the subtleties in your face that a close up can capture with the camera. And when I got to the stage, I realized, oh, they can't see me do all that cool stuff. So that's where my dance training came back in because it's like, oh, it's like dancing, but with adding your voice. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I was always great at having big movements and being really physical on stage, but I didn't project well. That was something I really had to work on. I've always had people always say, you have a Minnie Mouse voice. And I've gotten much better at that. I've always been a good actor, but never really was good at projecting. So that was the main difference for me was it felt doing theater, you feel like you're yelling, like you're just
Yeah.
like, or you're hard of that person who's hard of hearing, like you just feel like you're just yelling all the time because you can't hear
Yeah.
yourself. Um, versus film, yeah, you get to have like you can whisper on film and it'll still look really powerful, but on stage it's like you gotta amp up everything. Um, television, I would say television, I don't know. I've only done 2 TV gigs. I did The Librarians and I did Z Nation. Those are the only 2 network shows that I have to my name, and both of them are no more. They were canceled. Rest in peace. But I think TV was a little bit more theatrical. I feel like, especially if it was a comedy, I could be a little more edgy with it. But yeah, film work, it's like you don't want to be cheesy with film. Like it's harder to get away with. Like you have to really
Right.
you can't lie in film. I think it shows really easily. So I think film is a little bit more honest in my opinion. And you can be honest on stage as well. But yeah, that's the hard part is finding how do I show an honest performance, but also keep it big and not keep it to myself.
Did you find it like when you did your plays, and then let's say the next week you went on and did a film, did you find yourself telling yourself to kind of tone it down more because you were so used to that theater
Actually,
presence?
no. No, I've never
Okay.
found that. But I had an experience recently, actually. Um, I haven't taken classes in a long time, acting classes. I took a lot when I first started, and you kind of get to that point where it's like, well, I paid my dues. I don't need any more training. That's not true. So I decided to do a scene study course. It was online, but it was one-on-one scene study with an LA casting director. So he'll give me a scene once a week, big hefty scene, lots of dialogue. I'll film it like a self tape, and then he gives me feedback, and then I'll film it again as if I were submitting a callback. And his biggest note to me was you need to be bigger with self-tape auditions. And this is just his opinion. This could be
Sure.
different. Like, you need to be bigger. You need to make bigger, bolder choices because, they're watching you on a small little screen. They're not watching you in person. And that was baffling to me because to me, making too big of a choice on camera comes off cheesy. And I like
Right.
being honest. Um, so honestly, and this is like fresh, this was like last week that I got this note. And it was kind of a conflict for me because I had just done a callback Zoom audition up here for a Seattle project. And they gave me the opposite note. They said, I think the note was, don't show us, you don't need to show us how you feel. Just let it hit you and then it'll show naturally. And
Hmm.
between that note and the other casting director's note, I think I got so in my head, I didn't know what to
Yeah.
do. Clearly I didn't book that audition.
Yeah, that is interesting, but it is, I mean,
I think
just like most auditions.
every casting director has their own opinion, so I'm not going to take that. I'll
Yes.
take it, with a grain of salt.
Right. Yep. Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. It's just that everyone has their own perspective on how to do things. Now, because you've been acting so long, you have the experience and you have that foundation. Was there anything else that surprised you taking this course?
Actually, yes. Yes. I asked him this question because I do a lot of indie film, obviously, because I'm in Seattle. I don't get big network auditions every day. Like, I'm not in LA. So most of the time, if something is written a certain way that it doesn't come out naturally for me, I'll tweak it and I'll still obviously say the same, make sure the same idea comes across, but sometimes I'll change the dialogue. Um, and most of the time up here, I don't get any pushback for that. And a lot of indie filmmakers welcome that. They're like, please, like,
Hmm.
say it how you would say it so that it sounds natural. But I did that in one of my self-take tapes for him, for the casting director. And after I sent it, because I realized, oh, I changed some of the words, like slight words, nothing major. And I asked him, hey, what are your thoughts on, changing the words sometimes or adding filler words to make it, to bring more of your mentality to the character? And he kind of ripped me apart. And it was through email. So, you can't read how they're saying things, but it felt like
Right.
there were lots of exclamation marks and lots of question marks. And I'm like, okay, he feels very strongly about this. And he said,
Yeah.
no, no. I mean, if you want to change a word or two in the initial audition, sure. But if you get a callback, don't change anything. Do it exactly how you did it the first time, because that's why they called you back. And that kind of hit me because I think when I get a
Hmm.
callback, I try to do extra things to, I don't know why I do that, but now I'm starting to think, maybe I need to do less with my callbacks and it's okay for it to be exactly the same as you did it in the first tape. Um, so yeah, I think that was a big realization for me. And I was like, maybe that's why, I haven't booked some of these callbacks, is because maybe I'm just trying to make it too different. And I think that comes also from theater, where you do the same show every night for a whole weekend and you get bored with it. And so you find different ways to do it. And the audience doesn't,
Yeah.
because it's a different audience every night. But yeah, you got to be careful with that with film work. Like, they want some kind of consistency, at least between the first tape and the callback. Maybe once you get to set, you can play a little bit, but for the auditions, yeah, he was like, no, keep it the same. Don't change the words. Don't do this. Don't do that. Do not pass go.
Yeah. This is my house. You do what I say.
Yeah, yeah. But that's also,
That mentality.
I think that's also another, like, it's an opinion thing. It depends on
Yeah.
who you're working with.
When you do theater, I mean, that's, I've done theater as well when I was in college. Did you find yourself, like, I mean, you said the word bored. Did you find yourself like, come on, let's just get this over with, and then you miss doing film because it's so quick and fast?
Mm. I like theater. I will say now, I do like theater better than film because there's not a lot of sitting around, even though you're doing, like, the only time I get jaded with theater is when we have 2 or 3 shows a day, because you're just at the theater
Yeah.
all the whole day, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
um, but the nice thing is that once the show starts, it goes so fast. Like, especially if you're in a lead part and you're in a lot of the scenes, it goes quickly. Especially you have the adrenaline of an audience. No matter how many times you've done the show, there's always that little bit of adrenaline before you go on stage, and I like that. On set, on film sets, it drags on and on. At least I've experienced.
It's a
It,
complete
it,
opposite.
it depends on, I guess, again, the production, who you're working with, how much they have their
Yeah.
stuff together. But most of the time, like, it takes forever to set up shots, to change the position of the camera. Sometimes, like, there's a lighting thing. This one set I was on, they took like, it was like 3 hours, and we shot the first thing after 3 hours of being there. And that's where I start
Yes.
to like, I start to melt. Like, I'm melting. So
Yes.
I love the finished product of film, but getting there can be a bit of a drag for me, which is that theater's a little more exciting. You kind of have to keep the show going. So yeah, I prefer theater.
That's good to know. Wait. How has your now you have a 3-year-old?
Mhm.
How has your role as a mother influenced your creative process and career choices?
A lot. I think when it was definitely a shock when you first become a parent. Then trying to work at all on top of it is tricky. And I am very lucky because my husband, um, throughout my whole pregnancy, he was in a very challenging position at his job where he would work until like 9 o'clock at night. He lived in Seattle, or he worked in Seattle, and we lived in Federal Way. So there was this long commute home, and it was hard. And after our son was born, he got the opportunity to work from home, and that really
Nice.
was a blessing to have for the first 3 years of our kid's life, because
Yeah.
he didn't have to commute. He was there. So for me, it gave me a little bit of flexibility in that if for some reason my mom, who's my main babysitter, couldn't watch my son and I had a gig, and if it was a good paying gig, like, I could get
Mhm.
away with leaving him at home with my husband. It wouldn't be fun for him to work from home and watch a kid, but he'll make the sacrifice if it was for a good gig. Not for stuff that
Yeah.
not for free stuff, but for the right
Yeah.
gig. So that's been helpful. But as far as my creative process, I feel like I can't, I'll be honest, I can't spend as much time on things as I used to. Like, I used to have time to really, meditate before an audition, get in the zone. And I find myself having to just kind of throw myself into things now, because I go from, mom mode to, hey, can you watch him really quick while I go do this? And it's been okay for the most part. But like I said, that last audition where they gave me that note to not show as much of my emotion, I was so exhausted from just the day of being a mom. And, when you're auditioning at home on Zoom, you can hear everything happening downstairs in the living room. It's not exactly a peaceful environment. So I think I just got out of my head. And that was the first time that I think motherhood kind of got to me and affected my performance. Um, but for the most part, I've found ways to make it work. Usually, I stay up late to do things like memorize lines. If he takes a nap, I'm using that time to, work on whatever it is, whether that's trying to find my next gig or working on an audition, filming an audition, learning lines. Um, I have to be just very rigid with my time now with it. So before, it was like I could kind of get away with being lazy and wait till the last minute to learn something, but now it's like, okay, I know I have to do this next week, so I got to start working on it now, because I only have like a couple, maybe 2 hours a day to myself to focus on it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
in a way, though, it's nice because I found that I'm not filming my auditions and sitting there and dwelling on them and thinking, "Oh, okay, no, I got to do another take." And I used to do like 8 takes before I would pick one. Now I do
Yeah.
2 takes, maybe 3 takes. And
You're
usually, like,
like,
I'm
I'm
good.
done.
I'm good. And those are usually the better ones because you kind of
Right.
go with your instincts and you're not, over analyzing everything. So in a way, that has helped me to be more in the moment and to think quicker and to just get things done rather than obsess over them like I used to.
Yeah. You teach yoga
Hmm.
and fitness, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of in the
Yeah.
same ball.
Yeah. Similar.
What alongside with acting, how does that balance out for you? Being a mom,
Hmm.
teaching yoga, and then also doing gigs. How do you balance
Teaching
all that?
teaching has always been I started teaching dance when I was like a teenager. So teaching has always been part of my bread and butter, the stuff that, gives me a decent paycheck. I know I can rely on that money. Um, I always wanted to teach yoga, but you have to pay, it's kind of a hefty fee to get certified. You have to go through a training. It's usually like good programs are usually around $2,000. So it wasn't really in my budget or in my time until the pandemic hit. And I had quit my job as a police officer right when the pandemic was just starting. So,
Okay.
which was also, I still feel bad about it because it's like I had an essential job and I left it during the most critical time. Um, Not that I regret it, but I
Right.
decided to get certified in yoga because they were offering it online. And I got certified. I was pregnant at the time, so that was fun. And it
Yeah.
turned out to be really helpful for me because I can create my own schedule. I can teach in the morning or I can teach at night. If a gig does come up, it's usually pretty easy to find a sub. Usually the manager at the yoga studio will find a sub for me depending on where I'm working. So for those every now and then gigs, it's not like, oh, I don't have to turn them down because I'm teaching during that time, which is really
Right.
nice. So yeah, teaching dance and yoga. I usually teach in the evenings, like twice a week. And then my other bread and butter are my children's princess parties that I do on the
Oh yeah.
weekends. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
actually I've been doing that for 10, 11 years. And that's also been a really great way to make money and to not completely take up my whole schedule during the week because I only do them on Saturdays and Sundays. So that's kind of allowed me to, when you're a stay-at-home mom, you want to contribute financially because it makes you feel like you're actually doing something, even though being a mom is a whole job in and of itself.
Well, yeah.
I'm one of those people who I don't feel like I'm helping unless I'm working somehow. So it's
Hmm.
been a nice thing for me to feel, I guess, a little more value in myself to be able to bring in some sort of income to help with things, like groceries. Um, because yeah, I'm not good at just sitting around. Like I get really antsy and I even get depressed when I'm not doing something. So being a
Yeah.
mom was a big, yeah, I've learned a lot about myself when I became a mom and realized like what things make me tick and what things I need to work on in myself. So I'm grateful that I became a mom because now I see how selfish I was before because I was like, man, I dedicated a lot of time to myself and I can't do that
Yes.
anymore.
Yes.
So,
I think that's a common theme for all parents, believe it or not. I think
oh
there's
yeah.
some people who, I mean, all start off selfish, and then you get married, and you may maintain that a little bit of selfishness, and then you
Mhm.
have a child, and then that's the tipping point. It's like, well, are you gonna let go of that and be with your child, or are you gonna continue to be selfish? And you have both. There's
Yeah.
both realms in that.
Yeah. Because there's self-care and then there's selfish and you
Yeah.
do need
Right.
that self-care. You gotta be able to do the stuff for yourself. And I believe you can still do that and be a good parent, despite what,
Absolutely.
society says.
No, you got to put your oxygen mask on first,
Yeah.
and then
There you go.
give it to your child, right?
Yeah.
That's the model. What have you started introducing your son into acting at all, or showing him
A little
things and
bit.
how it works? Yeah.
He knows that I do auditions. He knows that this room is like it's called the princess room because I keep all my princess costumes in here for my parties. But it's also where I film my auditions because I can move stuff off the wall back here. And so he
Yeah.
always knows when I'm in here with my ring light on. He's like, "Mommy, are you doing an audition?" So, and he's done some
That's
commercial
awesome.
auditions with me. He's
Nice.
yeah, it's funny. He's very theatrical until you turn the
Yeah.
camera on, and then he sees himself,
Oh.
and he's like, "Oh, oh." So I got
What happens if I do this?
yeah.
Yeah.
But for my theater auditions, I always have to sing a song, so I'll practice that song for like a week straight. And eventually, by the end of the week, he knows the song and he sings the song
I'll
around
sing
the
with you.
house.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I think he'll have an interest in it when he's a little bit older.
Yeah. That's great. What would you consider your biggest breakthrough in the acting world or any kind of film or television show? What was that breakthrough? How did it feel? And what did it do for your perception on the whole process?
Hmm. Gosh, I don't know if I personally feel like I have had a breakthrough. I do have some stuff that I've been, I guess, proud of. When I was in LA, I one of my goals down there was to get into Christian films. I grew up Christian. I've always held on to my faith, and it's helped me a lot, throughout the ups and downs of life. So I always was interested in doing faith-based films. And
Yeah,
I got to work with Pureflix while I was down there. They were
that's awesome.
it's an interesting concept, but they were doing a Christian soap opera,
Oh,
and the first of its kind.
yeah, yeah,
And I got a chance to, because my roommate at the time was friends with the casting director. I kind of got a little in there, was able to audition, and she really liked
nice.
what I did. So I got the part, and it was a series regular, and it was for for their online platform, for their PureFlix platform, kind of like Netflix, but for
Yeah.
Christian movies. But that was a big deal for me because that was one of my big
What
goals.
were you in? I'll tell my mother.
Does she watch PureFlix?
Yes.
It's called Hilton Head Island,
Okay.
and it's got like a couple soap stars. It's got Donna Mills and Linda Gray in it, and I think for me, being able to work across from them in not just like a day player role, but in a role where I was in like several episodes in 2 seasons. That was
Yeah.
huge for me because I finally got to exercise what I think my gift is of being really on top of my dialogue and knowing my lines and being able to say that with confidence. Because with soap operas, they film so much at one time. They film like a lot of pages a day. So they have teleprompters up for the actors. I know it's weird.
What?
And it was very strange for me because I've done teleprompters for like training videos for like text,
Right.
but not for like
Yeah.
emotionally connecting with another character. So it was a bit strange. I mean, I don't like tooting my own horn, but I memorized all of my stuff because I was like, I can't look at the teleprompter because your choice was you either look at the teleprompter and that's who you connect with, or you look at the actor and look into their eyes, but you can't switch back and forth because it'll look
Oh,
weird on camera. So
right, right.
most of the soap stars, like, they're older, they paid their dues. They're like, I'm not memorizing all this crap. So they use the teleprompter. And
That's funny.
it was interesting, yeah, to see that. And a lot of them kind of stumbled over their lines, I noticed. And so for me, it just said, oh, maybe this is a gift that I have to be able to to retain this much material and to be able to get it out. And for me, that was a little win. I think that was my biggest win from LA, even though it's not a series that is going to be shown on cable that the mainstream media praises and watches. Like for me, it
Right.
was a hefty character. The production value wasn't great, surprisingly.
Hmm.
They did everything on green screen. So like everything, like we didn't have locations. If we were in
Oh,
an off,
interesting.
if we were in an office, if we were at the beach, if we were at a store, it was all on green screen. Um, so
Oh,
yeah, I was like, oh, they save a lot of money that way though. So I get why they did it. Um,
okay.
but yeah, that was my win from LA. I would say the other breakthrough I feel like I had was right after the pandemic. Well, I was in the middle of the pandemic, actually. It was right after I had my son. He was only about a year old. And I had booked, someone recommended me for a role in this film psychological thriller that was filming over in Idaho. And I read the script and I was like, wow, this is really good. And then they were also paying a decent pay rate for a feature film. And I was like, man, this is
Yeah.
like jackpot. And everything went really well. I did the audition. The director loved me, and I got cast in the lead role. And long story short, when I went over to Idaho to actually start the first day of principal photography, I discovered that I had COVID. And as
Yeah.
lovely as they were indie filmmakers, but they really had good. I'll just say who it is. It's the
Yeah.
Caden from Recollection.
Yeah. Caden Patera.
Yes,
I interviewed him in
yeah.
Recollection. Yep.
I had seen their other work. I was like, these guys do really good stuff. Like, I am honored to
Yes.
be able to be in any part of their movie, let alone the lead role. So that was hard because from their standpoint, they couldn't, they had to recast me. There was no time or money in the budget to wait for me to quarantine because the locations had been booked. Everything was
Right.
set to go. And as heartbreaking as that was for me, after I got over it, I was like, okay, I get it now. I understand. And I knew Caden felt really bad too because he really liked me.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, I was able to come back and still be in the film in a supporting role. So, not the lead
That's
role,
awesome.
but still a really big role. And so I'm so happy that that was able to still happen. Because for me, I've never had really a big part in a feature film, except for recently. I did Aaron Carlson's uh, his Horrorverse series, and I did the
Yeah.
Hunt, the big film that he just finished, and it was nice having a lead role in that. But it's a fan film, and I had never had a lead role in like an original film. So even though I didn't get to do the lead part, I'm really happy I was a part of that because Caden is definitely somebody that I want to have in my wheelhouse. Like I feel like
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
he's going he's going places.
Yes, he is. I think out of the Pacific Northwest, his work is really top notch. I think,
Hmm.
and it's so sharp when it comes to the quality that he's getting
Yeah.
and making. And I love his sense of humor. I think some of the films he does just crack me up. But that's awesome.
Yeah. So I would say those are my breakthrough points where I feel like I was proud of the work that I did, and I was knew I was going to be proud of the work that came out of it.
How did your experience as a former police officer influence your writing of The Last Call or Last Call, a tribute to fallen officers?
Yeah, yeah. So shortly after I had resigned, and I had my kiddo again, he was probably about 1 years old, maybe younger. I I wanted to give back somehow, just to the law enforcement community because when departments hire officers, they spend a lot of money to send them through the academy. Like we're talking like $10,000, $11,000 on one candidate to be able to be
Yeah.
fully trained and sworn in. And I felt so bad that they had taken a chance on me and that I didn't last. And I think I still feel guilty about that. But I wanted to create something that showed my appreciation just for the field. And also for my department, because I worked for Lakewood. They had 4 of their officers, killed in the line of duty years ago in a very heinous way. And the memorial is still out there outside of the department, and thinking about all of those officers who all had families. And we hear about stuff like that on the news, we it's sad, but then it's like, we go about our day. But when you actually were an officer, when you think about that, could have happened to me. Even though I was in training, I was still out on the road. I still took people to jail. I did everything a fully sworn officer would do. So that could have been me. I could have been killed at any point. And thinking about that, it inspired me to create a story, kind of like a music video, that followed an officer as he goes about his morning routine of getting ready, saying goodbye to his family, and then driving to the call that would ultimately take his life. I just found, for some reason, that just really artistically resonated with me. And I was actually friends with the musical group that did the song. And when I heard their song, I fell in love with it. And I reached out to them. I was like, I don't have a lot of money, but I love your song. They were a local group. They're not together anymore. They went their separate ways. But I asked them for their permission to use their song. And they let me, and I think it fit together so wonderfully. And for me, that was a nice way to, I guess, wrap up that part of my life and to let it be. It was kind of cool to paint that picture of something that I used to do in the artistic sense of what I now do. So for me, it was kind of like a culmination of everything, and kind of my thoughts on the career, my respect for the career that I'll always have. And yeah, kind of an homage to just the other officers that I'd worked with.
It also sounds like you're kind of closing a chapter as well.
Yeah.
At the same time. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as someone who's been both in front and behind the camera, how do you balance your acting, your writing, and producing on projects?
I would say I don't. I definitely do.
Okay.
I definitely act more than I write and produce. I've only done 2 of my own projects, and that was the Fallen Officer music video, and then my
Applaud.
Catwoman fan film.
Yes. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. So Catwoman, I did that when I was in LA, and I did it because it started out as a very small idea. I wanted to film like a very short scene that I could kind of use as a grabber, as a part of my reel, to show that, hey, I'm athletic. I can be a superhero. I can be in action films. Because my face and my stature doesn't immediately say action star, but I wanted to be an action star.
Yeah.
So I wrote this little scene, and I had made some friends in LA who worked at a stunt school. And it's funny, when you're in LA, you can go down the street to a studio. You never know who you're gonna meet. Like, I met a star in my sword fighting class. I met some Marvel guys in the stunt fighting class, and it was like, wow, it's like these people are closer than they appear to be.
Right.
And I was able to get some help from one of the guys who had done Marvel films in the stunt capacity. And he was known for helping actors who were trying to get into stunt work. He would take them under his wing. And it was so cool.
Nice.
He was a very generous person with his time. He would teach classes for free or for like a very small donation. Which is huge in LA because everyone's a starving artist.
Right.
So I got him to help me out. I was like, hey, like, I want to choreograph like a sequence. I want it to be able to show myself off. I don't want it to be too flashy to where, because you can make action look really cheesy too if you don't do it the right way. And he was nice enough to help me. And once I got his help, I had another friend I had networked with who had a Red camera. And
Nice.
this is I'm not good at networking, but this is where I actually made the effort to network. I had done a film for the camera guy for free. It was his fan film. I was an actor in it, and he wasn't paying anyone for it, but it was such a cool project that we all wanted to be there. And he told me, he's like, if you ever want to shoot something like for your reel or whatever, like, I got you. Just let me know. And,
Nice.
I don't think he realized I was going to turn it into a big production. But I
Right.
found him a couple months later. I was like, "Hey, is that deal still on the table?"
Yeah.
And he honored it, and he was so busy at the time, I feel bad, but he made the time to help me out and filmed it on his camera, which is, I think, it really changes the game when you have a camera like that. So
Yeah.
I still can't believe I got to have my footage on that because it looks great. You know, I could have probably just stood on camera and flipped my hair and it would have still looked cool because the camera.
Right.
So that's Catwoman. It turned into like just a little cool short fan film.
So you wrote it and you got the stunt guy there and you
Hmm.
had the camera guy. Were there any other crew members
Oh yeah.
did they bring in their own crew?
So I had, okay, the stunt guy and the camera guy. Um, Those were my people. I had a makeup team, which was another fellow that I had worked with on a short film. He was an actor in it, and I was an actor, and him and I became friends. We had both come to LA fresh, with no
Yeah.
family there, so we kind of became friends quickly. So when he found out what I was doing, he did makeup, and that was what he was trying to break into at the time. And
Very cool.
it's funny because fast forward to now, he's like a pretty high-end makeup artist now. So it's really cool to see how he's grown. But he did the
Yeah.
makeup for me, which is like he did like the cat scratches on the other actor, and he had a partner that he brought with him. So those were two extra people. Um, there was another fellow that I had help direct because I had to be on screen. I needed somebody else to obviously be a director. I had done a short film for him and he agreed to come on to help me out. He brought a friend with him who did the sound.
Very
um,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, so it was really just a group of friends who I guess that's what networking is. When I never knew what it was until I look back on my Catwoman and I'm like, "Oh, these are all people that I met working on other projects, doing favors for them." Most of the stuff I did down there was not paid, but it did lead to relationships. And, if I hadn't have taken those unpaid projects, I probably wouldn't have had a team to do Catwoman. So,
Right.
yeah. I wish I could
What
I wish
about
I had the energy to network like that now. I've gotten kind of lazy though.
Well, you're a mom too. I mean,
Well,
come
yeah,
on.
that's true.
What about the choreography? So did you just rely on the stunt choreographer, the actors, or did you have your own concept of what you wanted to do?
I had some ideas. I wrote out the script and it was like there's a bunch of one-liners in the script. It wasn't really like a big dialogue thing because I really wanted to show off the action of it all. I had a few moves I wanted to put in there, and
Mm-hmm.
some of them made it in, and I kind of brought that to um, the stunt guy, and he kind of said yay or nay to my checklist. I wanted to do, I can't remember what it was. I wanted to do some move, and he was like, I think he knew that we were amateurs. He's like, that's going to take forever or it's going to look really bad. Which one do you
Mm,
want? And
yeah.
so he simplified things in a way where it was doable because we only shot it in one night. It was just an overnight shoot. And
Mm-hmm.
he was a perfectionist because he was like, look, if I'm going to help you with this, if my name's going to be on it, like, it can't look bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we did very simple stuff in order to keep it clean. And he pretty much did everything for me, which was really helpful because, I had the character, I had the costume, I had the script, I had the location.
See, you already had the costume then,
I
so
did. I
you
can't
were
remember
ready to
what
go.
I think I bought it for
Because
Halloween.
that's not a princess. You don't go to
That's
parties with
true.
that on.
Okay. I have done one Catwoman party, and my husband
Okay.
dressed up as Batman.
Oh, nice.
I used to offer that duo for kids parties, and finally my
Yeah.
husband was like, I'm not wearing the latex suit anymore. So I had to take that character off my website. But yeah, it used to be a
Does he act? Has he acted before?
no.
No? It's just like, okay, I'll do this for you.
No, I just kind of drug him in. He did great though. You know, it's for a kids
Yeah.
party, so I mean, it's
Right,
not that
right.
serious. But yeah,
That
I
is
already had the
funny.
costume, and I think that was kind of the only reason I chose Catwoman was because I had the costume with me when I moved to LA, and I was like, what can I do? What can I do with this? So yeah,
Were you involved in the editing at all? Or did you trust someone else to edit?
I wish I could have been more involved in it, but at the time, I didn't really know how to edit. I knew how to do stuff
Mhm.
in iMovie, but the footage they were working with was so high quality. I didn't even know my computer couldn't even handle the footage. So I did
Oh,
rely on
wow.
somebody else to do that part. But in the future, and he did a great job, but in the future, I would like to be more involved with my editing. And I was
Yeah.
for the law enforcement music video because it was dance. And if you have an editor that doesn't know how to edit dance, you have to coach them because they don't know the choreography. They don't know that this move goes on this part of the song. So it's really like specific. So that one I was a little bit picky on, and I asked him to send me, you know, rough drafts, and then I think he only sent me maybe 2 rough drafts, and I made some edits and was really specific in my notes, and he was able to correct it for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to not micromanage people in that way, and I hate doing that. Like, if I would like to just edit myself next time so I can
Right.
save people the trouble. Um, but yeah, I don't I'm not quite there yet. I'm really good with iMovie, but I don't know how to use the Final Cut Pro and all those things. So that's kind of
Right.
on
Yeah.
my bucket list. Is to
Well,
learn.
DaVinci's free.
Oh, it
DaVinci
is.
Resolve.
Mm,
So it's free. You could download that. So
gee.
here's the biggest question from Claude. Did that help? Did it open any doors for you? Were you able to use it to send it out to people or
I'm it's funny you say that because the casting director that I did the classes with recently, he it was funny right after he kind of ripped me apart in an email on his notes to me, which is fine. Like, you know, I have tough skin now. I can take it.
yeah.
He sent a follow-up email and said, "By the way, I watched your Catwoman. It was really strong." I was like, "Thank you."
Great.
So
Thanks. Yeah.
maybe he felt bad for being so harsh. Um, but I can't say that I've directly booked anything from it, but I have used it a lot in
Yeah.
submitting for things. For I think for recollection for
Yeah.
Caden's film, I definitely had sent that over. Um, I think that's how he found me was his friend had recommended me, and I think showed him Catwoman or something of my reel. Um, but yeah, even if it didn't contribute to me getting a role, I'm still really proud of it, and it's kind of cool
Oh
to have
yeah.
like a film up on YouTube with so many views. So
So
I'm glad.
when I first saw it, I was waiting for more.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, Jasmine's going to do a series, and it's going to keep
See,
going."
and
That's what I thought.
that's why I was saying I'm not good at balancing the acting and the producing and writing because those 2 films that I produced myself, like that was so exhausting. It's so much work to make
It's
that
a lot of work.
little 5-minute film.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I don't know how people do it on a regular basis. Like Aaron Carlson, you know, all the material that he's cranked out
Yeah.
with the horror series, like it's just so much. I don't know how he
Well,
does it.
he's lucky because he's a full-time filmmaker.
Yes.
That's the blessing in disguise. I wrote a script, did my first film last year.
Hmm.
And it's exactly what you said. I even acted in it, a small role in it. And I was like, next time I'm not acting. I'm just going to focus on the other side of it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because there's so much that's involved.
Yeah. And
Um,
when you're acting, you can't have eyes on the stuff that you want to have eyes on. So you have to trust someone
Yeah.
else to do it.
Which my wife, she was my co-director, so she would
Oh,
direct me and tell me if it was natural, if it was real,
yeah.
and she didn't worry about anyone else. It was only focused on me. It's kind of cracked me up. It's like, okay.
He had your back.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, we're not gonna do any crappy stuff. Let's get this right. Okay.
Now, was this a film? Was this a film that you had asked me
Yes.
to be on?
Yes.
I have been kicking myself about that. I don't know why. I think I just wasn't available.
I couldn't pay you. I couldn't pay you.
Here's the deal.
No one got paid on the film. We paid for transportation.
Yeah.
And we paid for craft services. And then
Yeah.
my buddy Philip flew from LA to
Oh,
be in it. So we got him an Airbnb, him and his girlfriend.
yeah.
I guess I could say fiance because this is going to be edited in the future. But yeah, but it was you were going to play Philip's boss.
I wish I would have said yes, but the reason,
Yeah.
so here's the deal. I do unpaid work and I have no problem with it. But at that point, because that was over the summer, right?
Yeah.
Or June. My June was so, everybody wanted to do everything in June.
Yeah.
I had no more margin left.
I get it.
Like
I get it. No worries.
Like my husband was getting cranky because he was stuck with the kid like for hours upon hours every weekend, and I'm like, I'm sorry. So yeah, I hate saying no to things. That's kind of my weakness, but I've had to be better about that if I know that I'm just really spread thin. But did you have Tyler Arns on your film helping out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
He did my story. I know you were in his film too.
I
I was
know.
like, you make movies? I didn't know you make movies. You didn't tell me. And I was like, oh yeah, I do that. When I interviewed him, he sent me the clip. I was like, I didn't know this part of you was in this realm because you played this lead in his film.
He's a
I think
very
you were a
humble
producer too, right?
Yeah, he's done a lot. He's very humble. He's not a bragger, but he did. I was in his horror film. He did my storyboard work for Catwoman. So
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
he did the storyboard for a cousin, and then I said, hey, you want to be a boom operator?
Mhm.
He's like, yeah. And I go, oh, you want to be an ATF agent? I put him in it.
He told me about that. I know. I was sad. I was like, God, if I would have known you were going to be there, Tyler, I would have tried to come and be in it. So that's my loss for not being able to be in it. But hopefully we can work again soon.
We're doing more. And I have Caden as my measuring tape of what I need to focus on.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, it can be done. So
yeah.
We're going to wrap this up. Let me ask you, what kind of advice can you give to other women who are looking to get into the acting community or even just somewhere within the film industry? Yeah. What advice has been most valuable to you that you can share to them on what are the mishaps, things to watch out for?
Yeah, definitely. I'll start with the things to watch out for because this happened to me. Really do your research with, talent agents and talent managers. I'd like to think a lot of them have been weeded through now, but I signed with a management company when I first started that ended up being a scam. And I didn't know what the red flags were to work. Did you do the same thing? And you feel so dumb, but then they're really good at what they do. They're really good at making you feel like, oh, you have the whole package, you're talented, you have the it factor, come pay $1,000 to do a showcase in LA and there'll be casting directors there, and some people are really into that pay to play. I don't know. I don't believe in it. I believe in paying for acting classes, but I don't believe in paying for these big cattle call showcases. And that's kind of what I got duped into. So just know that there is not like a quick way to fame, just be patient, treat it like a marathon and not like a sprint, because I was very much in a hurry when I started. And then that's where you run into disappointment, when you think that you have to accomplish a certain amount of things before a certain year comes. Like, you really can't measure your success in this industry. It's not like other industries where if I do this amount of work, I'm going to be here. it's just not like that, unfortunately. So giving
Mm.
yourself grace there, knowing that just be consistent, and eventually I try to believe this, that whatever's meant for you is not going to pass you by. It's just not. Like the thing that happened with Caden's film and me getting COVID, like it sucked, but when it all comes down to it, I think the other actress that stepped into that role to replace me, I feel like she had a deeper connection to the story and a deeper connection to the character after having had a conversation with her. Um,
Hmm.
so you just know that the roles that you get, those are for you. Like you got it. And the roles that you don't get for whatever reason, whether that's you didn't make the cut or you got sick on the first day, like for some reason that wasn't meant for you. Like don't dwell on it, let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other advice I would give is I really found a lot of help through Mighty Tripod, through Angela DeMarco and David Hogan. If you're in the Seattle area, I'm pretty sure they're still doing classes, but they were really helpful for me
Yeah.
at the time to get training, to get recommendations for agents who were not scammers and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So find a person like an angel that can take you under their wing, and yeah, just try to stay consistent with your search and do the unpaid work that you feel is going to benefit your reel. That was the most important thing for several years, was to be able to compile a reel. So do the work that you think, even though it's unpaid, do you think that it's going to be good production value? Do the people kind of know what they're doing? Is it going to give you like a good product for yourself? So just choosing your
Yeah.
projects wisely, I would say.
How do you, I mean, I have my answers, but I want to hear from you. How do you choose your projects wisely? Is there any kind of research
Yeah.
you're doing, or are you looking at who's involved, or is it about the story, or
Mhm.
do you even? I mean, do you ask, are you shooting on a Red, or is it a Sony? You know?
You don't have to shoot on a red if you want me to be in your project. No, yeah, that's a good question. I like to do a little bit of research on the person. I'll see if they're on IMDb, and if they're not on there, that's not like a deal breaker or anything. But it does look good
Yeah.
when you have some kind of work to show for yourself. Um, yeah, a lot of the stuff I do now is kind of word of mouth. So working with Aaron, Chuck Lawson, and Aaron Carlson, they started off doing like a faith-based film, and then all of a sudden started doing these horror projects. And I had already seen their footage.
So
I know. I had already seen their footage and how he filmed, how he edited. For me,
yeah.
I think the most important thing is editing. Like, do you have someone who can edit well? Because an editor can really kind of save your film. So,
That's
yeah, I definitely do research. I try to see if they have any other work out there. I try to see if anyone's talking about them in either a good or a bad way. There's, recently there was a filmmaker who I didn't have a bad experience with him, but he kind of had a bad rap with other people, I noticed. And so I just kind of kept my spidey senses up with that. So it's good to
mhm.
know, just be wary of who you're dealing with, because there are those crooks and scammers out there. So research as much as you can.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think so. When you're taking acting classes, is there any direction, like Meisner, or any kind of like, is there a certain, I guess,
Uh,
I don't know, method you would look at, or is it just kind of all encompassing?
for me now, it's all encompassing. When I was in LA, I was trying to decide if I wanted to go a certain way or not. I read Ivana Chubbuck's book, and I'm trying to
Hmm.
remember. I think her thing, Ivana Chubbuck, was using what's the word? Using like a replacement with your acting in order to create the emotional response you want. So, equating your scene partner to your brother or your mom or maybe someone that's passed away. Um, you know, in order for you to get your head in the right place and to give an honest performance, that really worked for me. Some people don't like that method because they say, well, it's emotionally draining, it's emotionally damaging for you, the actor, to relive maybe some bad experiences in your life in order to get this honest performance. For me, it's kind of been like therapy to be able to do that,
Right.
to be able to use the grief in your life to relate to a character on screen. So that's kind of I still use that today. I still, if I have a hard time connecting to a scene that where I have to cry or I have to be angry, like I definitely think about instances in my life where those emotions have come up, and I kind of keep that in the back of my head as I'm doing my scene.
Yeah.
That's my method. I'm not full on method actor. Like I don't become
Yeah.
the character outside of set. I don't do that. But
Yeah, walking around in your cat suit going, ah.
my son would be so confused.
Jasmine, we're gonna dock the ship to the dock. We're docking the ship. We're gonna park the ship. I don't know what I was trying to say, but what is next for you? Anything you're working on now or in the near future?
Let me look at I wrote it down what to look for. So I just did Recollection is supposed to be, I don't know when they're gonna
Yes.
release it, but that's in the works. That's something
I
else.
saw the trailer.
Yeah.
It'll be out. By the time we put this interview out, it'll be out.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. That's good to know. The trailer or the movie?
Probably maybe both.
I don't know how close.
The trailer definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely the trailer.
I know he said
Movie
he
will
was close.
probably be out by this time. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he said he was close. Other than that, I also did a film with, what's his name? I think it's Eric Husser. Eric Husser. He
Yeah.
did a film recently called Dawn. It's like a modern adaptation of Don Quixote. So
Yeah.
I was a special agent in that one. I got to be a villain, which is always fun. So that's also coming out at some point after its post-production. But yeah, other than that, I'm still working with Aaron on the horror stuff, and I think he's got some other projects in the works right now too. So yeah, stay tuned.
That's awesome. I interviewed Aaron. I interviewed Eric. I interviewed Caden.
Wow.
And I think, yeah. So you're just catching up. You're catching up. You were a little slow there, but we got you in here.
I have someone else I can recommend to you as well, which I'll
send them the invite.
Yeah, awesome.
Whatever it is.
Thanks for having me again.
We're not done yet.
Oh,
we're not done. I got 3 more questions.
Okay.
What's your favorite tech?
I love my iPhone. I shoot all my auditions on my iPhone. Works great. I never had any complaints. And I love iMovie. Yeah. Like, you can do a lot of cool stuff in iMovie, you know, for audition and editing purposes in that way. So that's what I use the most for this this industry is my iPhone, iMovie, and WeTransfer to send large files.
How do you feel about AI?
I'm a little wary of it. I'm a little scared just because the first thing everyone freaked out about was they're gonna replace us as actors, or they'll at least replace background actors. And, you know, I don't do a lot of background work, but it's kind of disheartening to think about it replacing actual humans. I know a lot of dance artists who use AI to choreograph, and I don't know how I feel about that either. Like, it sounds like it would make things a lot easier and quicker, but at that point it's like, is it original? I don't know. So I err on the side of holding on to that human component of the arts. So
yeah,
those are my thoughts.
How do they do that? How do they use AI to look up choreography? Is that
I don't know. Well, it's the chat.
Images?
I think it's called Chat GPT.
Yeah.
That's
they're just typing it in for.
Yeah, it'll actually spit out like turn here, step here, do this, and it'll actually narrate a dance. Yeah, which is crazy. But there's other apps as well. There's other apps where you can create formations, which I'm fine with that, using an app to create dance formations. But yeah, when it starts choreographing the actual dance for you, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're like, is this really original, or is this bits and pieces of something else?
Yeah.
Jasmine Wright, how can people reach you?
You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Jasmine Wright Dancer. I'm a little more active on my Facebook though. So I think my Facebook, my name is my married name, which is Jasmine Wright hyphen Curly. And most of my stuff, I keep my industry stuff public, and I keep my family stuff like friends only. So if you know me,
Yeah.
like actually know me, add me as a friend. Otherwise, you could just follow me.
You're not gonna add me. If you don't know me, it's not gonna happen.
You can message
Yeah.
me and explain why you want to be my friend, but I get
Right,
all those
right,
blind
right.
requests. It's like, do I need 5,000 friends? No.
Jasmine, thank you so much for being on the Downing Cut. I really appreciate your time
Thank
and
you.
your insight and your knowledge and your experience. I think that's huge. So
Thanks
I
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.